He couldn't see a thing, but his tail still wagged. Zack, a 5-month-old German Shepherd puppy, wore a black eye patch over one eye. The other was milky, unfocused. He kept bumping into walls, searching for a world he'd never seen. We found him wandering the edge of an industrial park in Sacramento, California, ribs poking out, paws scraped raw, his head tilted like he was listening for something that wasn't there. Someone had tied a black cloth around his head like a pirate patch, maybe to keep his eye from getting infected, maybe just to hide what they couldn't look at anymore. We took him in. No microchip, no collar, just that broken little body, blind eyes, and a tail that never stopped moving. At Brave Shelter, he moved like a question mark, slow, cautious, always feeling with his nose first. His crate was next to the outdoor yard where sun poured through the fence slats. Daylight made the dust in the air look like glitter, but Zack didn't flinch or follow it. He couldn't. Instead, he bumped into corners and walls, spun in circles when he got confused, then sat down quietly and licked the air like he was apologizing. Families passed him every day. "Is he blind?" they'd ask. And when we said yes, they'd smile politely and keep walking. It was always the same. I didn't blame them. People want the easy stories, the pretty ones. The perfect dogs that chase tennis balls and pose for Instagram. Not a blind German Shepherd puppy with a pirate patch and no chance of ever seeing your face. But Tyson stayed. Tyson was a 1.5-year-old pit bull who'd come to us a year earlier, half-starved and scared of his own shadow. Now he was steady, grounded, calm. And from the first hour Zack arrived, Tyson lay by his side. When Zack bumped into him, Tyson didn't move. When Zack cried softly in his sleep, Tyson pressed closer. When Zack tried to walk the outdoor path and veered off into the bushes, Tyson would get up, trot over, and nudge him back with his nose. I remember standing there in the midday sun, watching this big, stocky pit bull gently guiding a blind German Shepherd puppy through the yard, like he'd been waiting his whole life to take care of someone. Zack didn't see him, but he followed him. He'd sniff, take 3 steps, bump into a wall, shake it off, sniff again. Tyson would walk 10 feet ahead and pause, waiting. Zack's ears would perk, and then, tail wagging, he'd try again. People say dogs live in the moment. I don't think that's true. Zack wasn't living in the moment. He was surviving it, one cautious paw at a time. He didn't cry, he didn't beg, he didn't panic. He just kept walking forward like the world owed him nothing, and he still chose to meet it with trust. I'd lost my wife 3 years earlier. Cancer. Quiet and cruel. Since then, I'd learned to keep a low profile at the shelter, fix fences, clean crates, drop off supplies. I didn't do the soft stuff, the emotional stuff. But Zack walked into my ribs like a little cannonball that didn't know he'd already stolen my heart. I crouched that afternoon, sunlight warm on my back, and whispered, "Hey, little guy, you don't have to do this alone." He wagged. He couldn't see me, but somehow he knew I was there. He didn't move when I stood up, just sat there, facing slightly the wrong direction, nose tilted in the air like he was trying to smell my footsteps. His ears twitched at every sound, birds, gates, sneakers, and gravel, but his body stayed still, alert, hopeful. Zack wasn't like other puppies. Most 5-month-old German Shepherd puppies at the shelter bounced like popcorn. Zack waited, not in fear, something deeper, something like confusion, like he was still learning how to exist in a world that offered no pictures, only sounds and touches and smells. When we first brought him in from the streets of Sacramento, our vet thought there might be a slim chance of partial vision in one eye, but by the second visit, that hope was gone. Both eyes were damaged beyond repair. Nerve trauma, maybe from birth, maybe not, maybe someone had done something. The only thing we knew for sure, he couldn't see, and never would. We didn't talk about it much, the staff and I. No one wanted to say what we were thinking, because dogs like Zack, they get passed over, again and again, until there's no one left to pass. That morning, a family came in. 2 kids, giggling, sticky popsicle hands, the kind that melt your heart just being near them. The parents asked about puppies. Our intake manager led them to the back. I stayed near Zack, crouched beside him as he tried to chew a rope toy but kept missing it by inches. Then one of the kids spotted him. "Mom, look, pirate puppy." The dad followed the boy's voice, eyes narrowing. "What's wrong with his eyes?" "He's blind," I said gently. "Oh, that's sad," he replied, already turning away. "We'll keep looking." Zack tilted his head toward the voices, tail thumping once, then silence. That's the part that kills you. Not the rejection, the silence after. Like the hope drains out of the room and leaves only air behind. Tyson padded over a few minutes later, sat beside Zack and pressed his shoulder lightly into him as if to say, "Still here." Zack leaned in. That tiny lean, barely an inch, hit me harder than any speech could. There was no drama between them, no grand displays, just presence. Quiet, patient, constant. We started letting Tyson accompany Zack more during outdoor time. It wasn't something we planned. It just made sense. Zack moved better with Tyson near. Not fast, not smooth, but more confident. When Tyson walked ahead, Zack followed. When Tyson stopped, Zack paused. When Tyson turned, Zack tilted his head, sniffed, and turned too. One day I watched them make it all the way from the back gate to the water bowl under the tree, maybe 10 yards. It took them nearly 15 minutes. Zack stumbled once, froze twice, almost veered into the fence. But Tyson circled back each time, nudged him gently, waited. When they reached the water, Zack dipped his head, lips trembling with excitement. He'd done it, and he knew it. I stood in the sun with my clipboard and pretended to write something. I wasn't fooling anyone. A blind German Shepherd puppy and a rescue pit bull had just taught me more about loyalty and patience than most humans ever could. And I knew, deep down even then, that this was only the beginning. The next morning, Zack tried to follow Tyson without help. It started with a bark, short, questioning. Then a few cautious steps toward the yard. His head was low, nose sweeping the floor like a broom, ears twitching with every creak of the gate. I watched from the hallway, breath held. Tyson had already trotted outside, but the moment he heard Zack's steps behind him, he stopped at the edge of the ramp and waited. Zack's paws slipped slightly on the metal threshold, and for a moment I thought he'd turn back. But then he leaned forward, nose in the air, and let out a soft whine. Tyson answered with a quiet huff. That was all it took. Step by step, the little German Shepherd puppy crossed the doorway and made his way outside into the daylight. It was the first time he'd done it without someone leading him. The sun hit his fur, casting a warm glow across his back, and I swear, for just a second, he looked proud. He couldn't see the way the light played across the yard, but he felt it. You could tell. We used to joke that Tyson had become his seeing eye dog, but it wasn't really a joke. He was. When Zack bumped into a flower pot, Tyson trotted back and gently nudged him to the side. When Zack strayed toward the fence, Tyson blocked the path until Zack turned. It was like they were wired together. Families kept visiting the shelter, but no one asked about Zack. Not really. Does he bark a lot? Is he hard to train? Is he going to run into everything? I'd say he's blind, yes, but he's learning. He's brave. They'd nod, smile politely, then walk toward the pen with the golden retriever pups or the labradoodle with perfect curls. Sometimes Zack would wag when they approached, like he could feel the hope before it slipped away again. But he never showed frustration, never sulked. He just waited, patient, quiet, with that ragged black eye patch and his tilted head, listening, and always Tyson by his side. One afternoon, a delivery guy accidentally knocked over the metal hose rack in the yard. The crash was sharp, sudden. Zack jumped so hard he tripped over his own front legs. He landed awkwardly, letting out a yelp. Tyson was there in seconds. He didn't bark or panic, just stepped between Zack and the fallen metal and stood still, like a wall. I ran out to help, heart racing. Zack trembled under my hands, his breaths short and shallow, but as soon as Tyson touched his shoulder, Zack calmed. Just like that. It was that moment I realized Tyson wasn't just his guide, he was his safety. He was his anchor. And Zack, he trusted him more than he trusted the ground beneath his paws. That night, as I swept the last bits of hay from the hallway, I passed their crates. Tyson was already curled up, half asleep. Zack was beside him, head resting on Tyson's front leg. I whispered, "Good night, boys." Zack lifted his head, ears up, and even though he couldn't see me, he wagged his tail like he knew, like he always did. Zack began to memorize the yard. It didn't happen all at once. At first, he relied entirely on Tyson's guidance, following his steps, mimicking his pauses, copying his turns. But slowly, a rhythm formed. Certain spots in the yard gave off specific scents: mulch near the tree line, metal near the gate, the faint sweetness of blooming clover by the fence. Zack's nose became his compass, his ears the map. One morning, I watched him take 3 confident steps away from Tyson and stop at the edge of the shaded patch near the bench. He turned his head slightly, sniffed, and then carefully circled back without bumping into anything. Just a week earlier, he couldn't even cross the yard without getting lost. Now, he remembered. There was a grace to it. Uneven, clumsy grace, but grace nonetheless. I found myself staying longer at the shelter just to watch him. Tyson seemed to understand this shift too. He still stayed close, but gave Zack space, enough to wobble, to trip, to try. And when Zack needed him, he was there. Always. Sometimes Zack would chase the sound of Tyson's wagging tail or follow the squeak of a toy Tyson carried in his mouth. I began attaching small bells to Tyson's collar, just enough for Zack to track him. The change was immediate. Zack lit up, more curious, more eager. His ears perked every time Tyson moved. He'd follow the jingling sound, pawing at the air until he made contact. He didn't always succeed. Once he charged too fast and ran straight into the water trough. We all gasped, but Zack shook it off, sneezed, and wagged like it was the funniest thing in the world. That was the thing about him. He didn't see failure the way we did. Every crash, every tumble, every missed step, it was just another piece of the puzzle. Another lesson, another scent or sound he filed away. He was learning how to live in the dark, and he was doing it with joy. I sat with him in the yard that day, sun high and warm, Zack curled against my leg, breathing steady. Tyson sprawled beside us, chin on my boot, eyes half closed. I thought of my wife, of how, in those last months, every step felt like a mountain. How she taught me that strength wasn't loud, it was silent, patient, persistent. Just like this puppy. "You're doing good, little man," I murmured. "You're not just surviving anymore." Zack shifted, nose pressed to my hand, and licked it once. Then he stood, turned toward the sound of Tyson's bell, and followed. A blind German Shepherd puppy who didn't see the world, but still believed he had a place in it. That afternoon, Zack tried to play. He found one of the old tennis balls near the corner of the yard, guided only by the faint scent of rubber and the warm encouragement of Tyson's jingling collar. I watched from the bench as Zack pawed at the ball, missing it at first, then knocking it sideways by accident. He chased it, half stumbling, half leaping, with the kind of joyful confusion only a puppy can pull off. Tyson watched patiently. When Zack got turned around, Tyson trotted over, nudged the ball closer, then backed away to let him try again. It wasn't a game, not like most dogs played it. There was no clean catch, no perfect fetch, just effort, noise, and the occasional joyful bark when Zack made contact. But you couldn't deny the light in his movement. Even without sight, this little German Shepherd puppy radiated something close to confidence. He didn't know where the ball was exactly, but he knew it was out there. And that was enough to keep trying. The staff gathered by the fence, quietly watching. None of us spoke. We didn't need to. Then Zack did something unexpected. He ran. Just for the sake of it. Not toward a sound, not after Tyson. Just ran, ears back, paws thudding over the soft earth, tail whipping behind him like a flag. He crashed into the garden hose and tumbled head over paws, landing in a puff of dust. We all winced, but Zack just lay there a moment, then rolled onto his back, paws in the air, tail wagging like crazy. And then came the bark. One loud, excited, almost shocked, "I'm okay," bark that made everyone laugh through tears. Tyson trotted over, sat beside him, and leaned his head down to lick Zack's ear once. Gentle, slow. Zack rolled back onto his feet, shook himself, and trotted toward the bell again. I couldn't stop watching him, this blind, clumsy little survivor who had every reason to be scared, hesitant, even bitter. And yet here he was, bouncing through life like it owed him nothing but love. And maybe that's what hit me hardest. He didn't just trust Tyson. He trusted the world. He trusted that if he jumped, something soft would catch him. He trusted that someone would be there, even if he couldn't see them. I stood at the edge of the yard, arms crossed, heart full. I didn't say a word, but in that moment, I knew what we were all thinking. Zack wasn't just learning how to live. He was teaching us how. It was a Saturday when everything seemed to unravel. We had an adoption event that day. Flyers on poles, balloons at the gate, families pouring through the shelter in waves, puppies barking, kids laughing, volunteers guiding tours through the kennel rows. It was supposed to be a good day. I'd clipped a fresh bell to Tyson's collar that morning, a little brighter in tone, hoping it might give Zack an extra edge navigating through the buzz of voices and feet. He was already getting better, more confident, more stable. We even talked about letting him into the training pen next week, but that morning, something shifted. Too many people. Too much noise. Zack froze at the edge of the yard, ears back, tail low. His nose darted in every direction like he couldn't find a center. Tyson barked once from a distance, but Zack didn't respond. He just stood there, trembling. I walked over slowly, crouched near him. "Easy, buddy. I'm here." He didn't move. That's when the family arrived. A couple in their 30s with a boy, maybe 6 or 7. The kind of kid that always wants to pet everything. He spotted Zack from across the yard and pulled free from his mom's hand. "Look, that one! The pirate puppy!" Zack lifted his head at the sudden sound. One paw slid forward uncertainly. The boy ran right up to him, voice loud and cheerful. "Can I pet him?" Before I could stop him, the kid touched Zack's shoulder from behind. Zack panicked. He jumped sideways, slammed into the fence, and scrambled backward into a crate near the tool shed. A low, broken whine came from his throat, not aggression, just fear. I reached him in 3 strides, dropped to my knees, whispering his name. "Zack, Zack, it's okay, you're safe." Tyson rushed in seconds later and stood between Zack and the boy, not growling, not barking, just placing his big body there like a shield. The boy backed up, wide-eyed. His parents looked embarrassed. "Sorry," the father muttered. "Didn't realize." "He's blind," I said quietly. "He needs to hear you first. Feel you nearby." The mother pulled the child away. "Maybe we'll look at the puppies inside." They didn't come back. Later that day, after the event ended and the yard had gone quiet again, I found Zack curled in the far corner, head tucked under Tyson's chest. I sat nearby, not touching, just waiting. He didn't move for a long time. I wanted to be angry. Wanted to ask the universe what kind of justice allowed a German Shepherd puppy to be born into darkness, to be abandoned, to be passed over again and again because people couldn't see past a missing sense. But more than anything, I just felt helpless. That night, I stayed after everyone left, cleaned water bowls, reset crates, folded laundry no one asked me to fold. Zack lay on his bed, Tyson curled around him like a comma. I whispered into the quiet, "You don't need them to see you, kid. You just need someone who won't look away." His tail wagged once, slow and steady. He couldn't see me, but maybe he believed me. The next few days were quieter. Zack barely left his crate. He didn't whine, didn't bark. But the spark, whatever had lit him up the past week, had dimmed. He walked slower, sniffed less. Even his tail, once a metronome of hope, hung lower now, brushing the floor as he moved. I told myself it was just a phase, a bad day. Dogs bounce back, but deep down I knew better. That moment with the child, being touched without warning, the shock, the slam into the fence, it had shaken something loose. A fear that had always lived in him, waiting. Even Tyson seemed to sense it. He stuck close, almost too close. Instead of encouraging Zack forward, he curled around him protectively like a dog-shaped safety net. One morning, I walked into the yard early, fog still hanging low, dew on the grass. Tyson stood alone by the gate. Zack hadn't followed. I looked across the yard and saw him sitting at the far end under the bench. Perfectly still, head down, I called to him softly, "Zack, come here, bud." Nothing. I tried again, louder this time. "Zack, it's okay. Come on." He took one step and froze. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just scared of people, he was scared of hope, because hope meant change. Hope meant getting close, and every time he did, someone walked away. Or worse, someone hurt him. So I stopped calling. I just sat down in the dirt, facing sideways so he wouldn't feel cornered, and started talking. Not like a trainer, like a person. I know what it's like, buddy, to open up and get burned, to want something so badly it hurts, and then be told again that you're not what they're looking for. I looked down at my hands. After I lost her, I didn't want anyone near me. Didn't think I could survive another goodbye. There was a pause, a long one. Then the faintest shuffle in the grass. Zack took a step forward, then another, ears perked, nose twitching. He stopped just short of my knee, tilted his head, and bumped into my shoulder. I didn't move. Just let him be there. Let him choose. He leaned in, slowly, carefully, like he was testing the shape of trust. Then he laid his head in my lap. I didn't cry. Not then. Not until Tyson came trotting over and lay down beside us, his chin resting on my boot like it belonged there. That afternoon, Zack followed Tyson to the yard again. The bell jingled. The sun came out. The world didn't get easier, but he stepped into it anyway, one small paw at a time. That afternoon, something changed. Zack didn't wait for Tyson. For the first time, the little German Shepherd puppy stepped out of the kennel yard on his own. No bark, no prompting, just one quiet decision. Forward. I was raking leaves near the fence when I saw him. Head low, ears twitching, his nose leading the way like a silent guide. He made it halfway across the open space before stopping, turning slightly and tilting his face to the breeze. That was new too. He wasn't just reacting anymore. He was exploring. Tyson stood at the far end of the yard near the water bowl, watching. Not moving. Not calling. Just waiting. Zack sniffed the air, turned toward the sound of the wind chimes hanging above the bench, and walked, slow but steady, toward them. His tail began to lift with each step, wagging more confidently than it had in days. Then something small but unforgettable happened. He veered slightly, avoided the garden hose he usually tripped over, and walked around the metal post without bumping it. I froze. He remembered. The yard, the layout, the obstacles, it was becoming part of him. Muscle memory, scent memory, like a map drawn in shadow. I crouched down near the hose, just watching, barely breathing. Tyson let out one soft bark. Zack responded with a short wag and kept going. I don't know what it was about that moment, but my chest cracked open. It felt like watching a child take their first steps, clumsy, imperfect, but real. More than just movement. A choice, a step toward freedom, toward possibility. Zack reached the water bowl and lowered his head to drink. Tyson stepped back a few feet, giving him room. I wanted to cheer. Instead, I just sat there in the warm California sun, feeling my heart race like I'd just run a mile. Later, back inside, I found Zack curled up in his bed, paws twitching in a dream. Tyson lay nearby, awake but calm, eyes flicking between me and his little shadow. I reached down and rested my hand on Zack's shoulder. He didn't flinch. He leaned into it. "You're getting braver every day?" I whispered. "You don't even know how strong you are, do you?" His ears flicked once, then twice. I don't know if he heard me, but I believed it enough for both of us. This wasn't just a rescue story. It was a becoming. The next morning, Zack did something I never thought I'd see. He came when I called. I was near the back gate, checking the latch when I said his name, soft, like always. "Zack, come on, bud." From across the yard, I heard the quiet jingle of Tyson's collar, but it wasn't Tyson who moved first. Zack stirred, then stood. Nose in the air, ears up, body tight with concentration. One step, two, then a sudden burst. An awkward, eager half-run in my direction. His head tilted toward the sound of my voice, paws flying in a slightly crooked rhythm. He didn't stop until he reached me, bumping gently into my shin. He stood there, breathing hard, sides heaving like he wasn't sure what he'd just done, but he knew it mattered. I dropped to my knees, voice catching in my throat. "You did it," I whispered, pressing my hand to his chest. "You did it." His tail thumped, a single strong wag, then another. And just behind him, Tyson stood still, watching, proud. That moment broke something open in me, a kind of resistance I hadn't even realized I was holding. I'd spent 3 years alone. After my wife passed, I told myself I'd done enough loving for one lifetime, that I didn't have it in me to care that deeply again. But this blind German Shepherd puppy had other plans. He didn't need perfection. He didn't even need vision. He just needed someone to believe that he could figure it out. And he was figuring it out. We walked the yard together that afternoon, me, Zack, and Tyson. No leashes, no commands, just a slow, sunlit rhythm. Zack moved with more certainty now, nose lifting toward the breeze, paws avoiding familiar bumps and turns. He followed the bell on Tyson's collar, but not as closely as before. Sometimes he forged ahead, sometimes he stopped to listen to the wind chimes by the fence. It was like watching someone come alive. Later, as the sun began to set, I sat on the bench with a bowl of water and a peanut butter biscuit. Zack curled beside me, his body touching mine. Tyson lay across my feet, calm as ever. I looked at them, these two souls that had been tossed aside, broken in their own ways, somehow finding wholeness in each other. I'd seen people walk past Zack's kennel and whisper, "Poor thing." But he wasn't poor. He was powerful. He'd taken a world designed for eyes and reimagined it for ears, for scent, for trust. I looked down at him and said it out loud, finally, for no one but us to hear. "You're not staying here." Zack stirred in his sleep, shifting closer. "You're coming home with me." Tyson lifted his head, ears flicking forward, and in that quiet space between decision and action, I felt something I hadn't in a long, long time. Peace. It happened on a Wednesday, not a special day. No visitors, no volunteers, just a quiet morning at Brave Shelter, the kind where the sun rises slow and the yard smells like fresh hay and warm concrete. Zack was already at the gate when I arrived, waiting. Standing tall as his little body allowed, head tilted slightly, ears forward. Tyson sat behind him, calm and steady, like a silent guardian. But Zack didn't turn to wait for Tyson this time. He stepped forward first. Across the yard, I had clipped a small bell to the bottom of the play tunnel, a tinny little sound that sang in the breeze. I wanted to see if he could find it. Not because I doubted him. I just wanted him to know. Zack lifted his nose to the air, a pause, a breath. Then he walked. Not wobbly, not unsure, but with intent, purpose. He moved past the fence where he used to stumble, avoided the overturned bucket he always tripped on, swerved slightly to the left near the hose, every step measured, muscles memorizing the world he couldn't see. I stood still. So did Tyson. The whole yard felt like it was holding its breath. Zack reached the tunnel, stopped, and tapped it with his paw. The bell rang out, one bright note. He sniffed, then barked once, proud and sharp. And then he ran. Not away, not blindly. He ran back, toward me. A sprint as fast as his puppy legs would carry him. He collided with my knees and knocked me half backward into the grass. But I didn't care. I was laughing, crying, holding him as he licked my face, his tail wagging like a flag in the wind. Tyson trotted over, gave a satisfied grunt, and laid down beside us. I looked around and saw 3 of our staff peeking through the office window. One of them was already wiping their eyes. This blind German Shepherd puppy, this throwaway, unwanted, forgotten little soul, had just mapped the world in his mind and followed it straight to the people who believed in him. He didn't need vision. He had courage. He had memory. He had heart. And in that moment, I saw something else too. I saw the life he could have, not here, in the shelter, but at home, with me, with Tyson. Not because I pitied him, not because he needed help, but because we were already a family, and I was done pretending otherwise. The paperwork was in my truck for 3 days before I had the nerve to sign it. I kept telling myself I needed more time, that someone else might walk in and fall in love with Zack, that maybe he'd be better off with a younger family, with a yard, with kids who dote on him all day. But the truth was simpler and far scarier. I was afraid to love again. After my wife passed, I built my life around quiet routines and safe distance. Mornings at the shelter, evenings alone. No new attachments. No more heartbreak. I told myself it was peace. But peace isn't the absence of pain, it's the presence of meaning. And this little blind German Shepherd puppy had brought meaning crashing back into my life like a freight train. So on a warm Friday morning, I walked into the office, signed my name on the dotted line, and adopted them both. Zack and Tyson. 2 rescues, 2 misfits, 2 reasons to start again. When I opened the back of my truck, Tyson jumped in first, calm and confident like he'd done it 100 times. Zack hesitated. The step was high, and he couldn't see where it ended. He pawed the air once. Then again. I knelt beside him. "You got this." And then Tyson did something I'll never forget. He turned around in the truck bed, leaned over the edge, and let out a soft chuff, just loud enough for Zack to hear. Zack's ears perked, his tail twitched, and then with one determined bounce, he leapt. Awkward, half sideways, nearly missing. But he landed, right beside Tyson, tail wagging. The ride home was silent, except for the soft jingle of the bell on Tyson's collar and the rhythmic thump of Zack's tail against the seat. I opened the door to my house and let them explore. Zack moved carefully, nose brushing along the baseboards, ears twitching at every creak in the wood floor. Tyson stayed close, guiding him through the kitchen, around the couch, into the small backyard where sunlight pooled like gold across the grass. He didn't crash once. That evening, we sat on the back steps. Zack curled beside me, resting his head on my thigh. Tyson stretched out at my feet, watching the world like it owed him nothing but calm. I looked down at Zack, his little black eye patch, his milky eye, his breathing slow and steady. He couldn't see the sky above us, but he didn't need to, because for the first time in his life, he was home. Zack never saw the world the way we do. He never chased birds in the sky or watched leaves fall from trees. He never looked into anyone's eyes or saw the face of the man who brought him home. But somehow, he saw everything that mattered. He saw love in the sound of Tyson's bell. He saw trust in the gentle hand that guided him. He saw home in the warmth of the sun on the porch and then the rhythm of my footsteps beside his own. This blind little German Shepherd puppy, who once stumbled through silence and fear, now runs through my yard like he owns it, tail high, ears tuned, heart wide open. Not because the world became easier, but because he became braver. He didn't need pity. He needed someone who wouldn't look away. And in return, he gave us something more powerful than sight. He gave us a lesson in courage, in resilience, and in what it truly means to see with your heart. Tyson taught him how to trust. Zack taught me how to feel again. 2 rescued souls, 1 second chance. And every day, when I hear the soft jingle of that bell and the quiet thump of Paws at my side, I'm reminded of a simple truth. This little guy's journey from abandonment to rehabilitation shows how important nonprofit rescue groups really are. Caring for a rescued puppy is more than love, it's responsibility, it's pet care. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share. Every time you do, you help save more dogs like Zack. Dogs who just need to be seen, even in the dark. Join our Brave Paws family. Be their voice. Be their hope.